Hi there makers and welcome back to Minerva. I'm Annie.
And I'm Gavin.
And today we're here to talk about the final of the Great British Sewing Bee 2025 and what a final it was. If you don't want any spoilers, if you've not watched it yet, head over to BBC iPlayer and make sure you catch up because we will be revealing the winner in this video. Go and watch the Sewing Bee first if you haven't already. So before we get into our video, Gavin, what are you wearing today?
Well, picking out what to wear for the final episode, I don't know if you found it extra challenging to go, right, what's going to really kind of encapsulate everything they're talking about. So I wore something I've worn before. So on top I have my I Am Rainbow sweatshirt. And this one is sewn in our Nebulous Night crushed velvet, which is very much our theme for the day, entirely unplanned. And also I have on my Terence Williams Desert Sunset linen viscose, and this is the Love Notions men's Bandcamp shirt.
Good.
So how about you?
I'm wearing the So La La Mara top, which is in our Boudoir Bouquet crushed velvet. So again, went for the crushed velvet theme because I thought kind of party wear, kind of
absolutely
final look. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing.
Fabulous. So it is the final of the Great British Sewing Bee, and for the final pattern challenge, the makers were tasked with sewing a bias cut slip dress. So we are talking slinky, shifty fabric, cut on the bias. This one had very fine spaghetti straps.
Very fine.
There was a bias cut binding all around the neckline and back. Bit of a cowl neckline going on as well. And the makers had just 3.5 hours to tackle this particular challenge. What do you think of this as a final challenge?
I think it's one of those pattern challenges that looked deceptively simple, and then when you actually get into it, you're going to have to spend so much time on your cutting out, making sure everything is properly on the bias, and you're using slippery fabrics, and you've only got 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I very much agree with you. It's one of those, a bias cut slip dress. There's not a lot of seams going on. No. There's not a lot of detail. It's very much a garment that lets the fabric do the talking.
Definitely.
And when you cut on the bias, it just skims the body really beautifully. It's such an elegant garment when done nicely. But achieving that with a slippery fabric in a short space of time, it's a tall ask.
Yeah.
Definitely a tall ask. So yeah, I think this was an interesting one to do for a final challenge. And definitely a mix of results there as well.
Definitely. I think they were all kind of rushing towards the end, so they all had a bit of a wobbly hem going on because you do not want to be rushing a hem on a nice slippy fabric. Some of them didn't actually have time to press it at the end, so it was extra wobbly. And I think trying to get that bias tape on, because it was quite thin bias tape as well, trying to pin all that on and make sure you catch all your raw edges in that as well would have been really difficult. Absolutely.
Is this something that you've tackled before?
I've tackled a slip dress. I'm a big fan of the Friday Pattern Company saltwater slip, and I've tackled making my own bias binding. I've never cut out a whole garment on the bias yet. Also haven't tried doing it in 3.5 hours.
Well, at least you don't have to do it to those kind of time constraints. Yeah, I occasionally cut on the bias, but mostly for kind of bias binding or just to play with pattern placement. I've never done a full garment on the bias. I have worked with slippery satin fabrics before, and you do have to be careful with how you work with them.
Yeah.
And doing that it's so easy for hemlines to shift and for puckers to appear.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't be mad keen on trying this in the timescale.
No, And then obviously on the bias, fabric stretches, even woven fabrics, so you've got to make sure you're not going to stretch it out of shape.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Caz showed she cut out her pattern piece for a bias binding and then she held it up and there was like an extra 2 inches already.
Yeah, it's like I love the different properties of fabric.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that using the bias gives a completely new dimension to a woven fabric, because normally a non-stretch woven, you've got no stretch across the width, you've got no stretch across the length, but then the minute you get on the bias, you get this fluid kind of movement to it, and it just transforms how fabric works, which is amazing and gives you so many options, but it does make life more difficult for you too.
Definitely. I have definitely done my bias binding before and ended up with quite a bit more than I should have at the end because I've clearly stretched it out. So yeah, it's definitely something to watch when you're working on the bias.
So what do we think of the 3 finalists and what they chose to tackle for this one?
I loved all of their final dresses. They all looked really lovely. I thought it was interesting that only Caz went for a print fabric on this one. Especially because Esme did say when she was judging Caz's that the print kind of hides any sort of imperfections.
Well, I can see why you would want to choose a print for it, but I can also see why you wouldn't. In the directional prints don't work well when you're on the bias, because then everything's going kind of diagonally across the body. But for a print like Caz chose, where it was abstract, it looked beautiful.
It looked quite, it was stunning. It was an absolutely stunning dress. I mean, they all were really.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
with the plain fabrics, you still get that kind of fluidity of it being on the bias, so you can kind of see that coming through in the fabric. And they all chose like a sort of satin fabric, so it all had that lovely sort of satin shimmer finish.
I think that satin sheen looks great in a slip dress. It looks great kind of skimming the body. But I also think that cowl neckline detail, it just really picks up the light and the shine in it. So yeah, I absolutely loved Caz's. Obviously, I'm a print fan.
Oh, yeah.
But boy, did she struggle with that fabric.
Yes.
And I think some of that comes down to time as much as anything, because I'm sure given more time, she'd have been able to handle that fabric absolutely fine. One of the things that I did notice is like when she was doing, I think particularly the French seams down the sides, she really struggled with kind of the 2 fabrics kind of stretching out at different rates. Now, I think some of that might have been remedied with pinning the fabric differently. Now, we have got like a really super video from Jo on our Minerva TV playlist, which if you do sewing regularly, you really need to check this one out. So this is her top 20 tips for pinning, and it sounds so basic. But I learned so much watching that video in terms of the different types of pins you can use, but also the different ways you can pin. Because I typically pin kind of perpendicular to the fabric, so you're coming in from the side. But as Jo explains, you're holding the fabric in one place, whereas there's times when if you pin down the fabric, you're holding the fabric along the whole length of that pin. And I think that in this kind of situation might help just keep the fabric layers together.
I think pinning is probably one of those things that I think you learn the very basic thing of, okay, this is how I pin my fabric, and then you never look at any other techniques of pinning because you think, well, what other techniques are there?
What do I need to know?
Definitely an interesting video, one to have a look at.
Definitely. And we've also got a really good video from Jo on how to do French seams.
Yes.
So if that's something that you've not done before or would like to learn how to improve your skills on, do watch along with Jo and she'll teach you all the tricks.
I learnt to do French seams from Jo's video, so it's a fabulous video.
But yeah, coming back to Caz, I thought there were definitely some issues there, but the fabric she chose I thought looked stunning on the mannequin. it had just a lovely drape to it for that cowl neckline. And I think even with all her issues, I thought the end result looked stunning.
Yeah, it looked fabulous in the end. And I think she got some great comments from the judges. And considering she did all that in 3.5 hours, I think was pretty good. Pretty good result.
Absolutely.
So Yasmin chose like this like blue, I think it was like a satin back crepe back satin for her. So a bit more weighty than Caz's fabric, which I think probably helped with some of the kind of shiftiness and difficulties that Caz was experiencing. They said her French seams were really good, which was great. So they said that it didn't look pressed, which I think she still had it on the machine, literally, as Sarah said, needles up. Literally needles up for Yasmin, which was a shame that she didn't manage to just kind of get a bit of steam.
Yeah, it is a shame, because I do think that particularly with a satin hem, you need that little bit of pressing at the end just to smooth out those stitches, get everything completely flat.
Yeah, and I think she had a little bit of a tuck in her kind of bias binding at the back. But overall, I think it was, again, a lovely dress.
It looked lovely. I think you could see it fitted the mannequin really nicely. I thought all three of them achieved just the loveliest little spaghetti straps. Yeah. They were so narrow. And none of them had any issues.
No, I think maybe Caz twisted one of her straps slightly.
Yeah, hers was twisted,
but none of them seemed to be that frustrated. I mean, I've been so frustrated with trying to turn straps out. And so I think they all did really well at turning those out.
But yeah, I think Yasmin's look lovely. Yeah. Of course, winner for the pattern challenge was Orla. And I think the last few weeks especially, I think Orla has really kind of risen to the challenge of the pattern challenge, and she's just doing an amazing job. So I think hers was pretty flawless. Yeah. I think there was a little bit of kind of wobbliness to the final hem, but she had a lovely drape. She'd chosen a lovely kind of wine-coloured satin fabric. Again, a bit weightier than the one Caz had chosen, but still drapey enough to give that dramatic cowl neck. And it just looked lovely.
Yeah. I mean, all three of the dresses looked lovely. And I think when they're on the final episode, the judges are going to be really nitpicky about things like tiny little tucks or a bit of a wobbly hem, because it was just so close. I think I wouldn't have liked to have judged that pattern challenge.
It was tight, and I think they all showed their sewing really beautifully. Now, if you fancy sewing up a bias cut slip dress of your own, there are some really lovely patterns out there. If you want to create one with that lovely draped cowl neckline, then the one that we would suggest for that is actually one by Tammy Handmade. So this is a PDF pattern. You'll find it on Tammy's website, but she has done a lovely version that we'll just insert here for you on Minerva. So this is one that she sewed up for us in her swirling sunburst maxi charmeuse silky satin. Try saying that after a few pints. It's a gorgeous orange. The satin looks just absolutely lovely for that cowl neck. And this would just be a super pattern, I think, for recreating that look. Now, if you want a paper pattern, we have a couple of options.
Yes. I think the closest match to what they sewed last night would probably be the Style Art Kingsley bias cut dress, and you've actually got options to make a little bias cut like camisole in there as well. So it's got those really thin spaghetti straps. It's kind of like a midi length, just skims down the body. It's got some little bust darts for a bit of shaping. And yeah, the only thing it's missing is that kind of cowl neckline. But if you want something that kind of sits flat against the body, that's a really lovely option.
And then an alternative we've got for you is the Vicky Sews Lucia dress. Now, I think what makes this one particularly special is the back. Yes. So it's got a deep plunging V back to it, which has a really kind of wide facing to it and crossing spaghetti straps at the back. And this would just be lovely kind of extra special, special occasion, evening dress. If you want something a little bit sexier than your average bias cut dress, I think this would be just a lovely option. And in any of our satin fabrics, I think. So if you were to tackle this challenge, which fabric would you be reaching for?
So I don't have much experience with very slippy fabrics. I do still get a bit stressed out with the viscose chalet, so I'd go for something a little bit weightier. So I've picked out our core range Prada stretch woven satin crepe. So it's got a little bit of a texture on the wrong side, kind of like a crepe texture, which is just going to kind of help with that slippiness a little bit. It's still a bit slippy, but it's not going to be kind of sliding all over the place like a charmeuse would. It's got a bit of a subtle shimmer, but it's not kind of as shiny as like a satin, just like a normal satin. And I've picked it out in this lovely aubergine colour, which is like this lovely deep purple. I think would look really lovely, a little bit sexy for evening wear, and
This is lovely.
It's really soft as well.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like a moleskin softness to it.
So it feels lovely against the skin as well.
And it still has got that lovely sheen to it, and that colour would just be gorgeous for evening wear.
Yeah. And so if you were going to sew something like this, I mean, maybe not for yourself, but what kind of fabric would you go for?
Well, I think I've said it before, possibly every episode, I am a print fan.
Definitely.
So I would definitely be following Caz's lead and reaching for the prints on this one. And when it comes to a print that works in any direction, our Nebulous Night is just beautiful. There are just so many lovely colours in this. It's got, I think for kind of elevated evening wear, it's a really classy print.
Yeah.
You've got these deep indigos, but these little kind of rust patches as well. And this particular one is our charmeuse silky satin, which would be probably the trickiest option to go for, but will also give you probably the nicest drape to it.
It feels lovely. It feels really soft, really slinky. I could imagine that really kind of skimming down the body and giving
Wouldn't
a
it be lovely?
Slinky look.
And I can pair it up with my matching sweatshirt too. But because this is in our Minerva exclusive print on demand range, you can get this print across any of our base cloths.
Yes.
So you could go for this on a crepe back satin if you want something with a little bit more weight to it. We've also got a viscose satin.
Yep.
There's so many options, but without doubt this print, because I am just obsessed with it. I love it.
Gorgeous. So the next challenge was the Transformation Challenge, and this week the sewers were given lots of different sheer garments, so made out of tulle, made out of lace, and they were asked to transform them into something sophisticated, something a bit more elevated, which was an interesting challenge. What did you think of it?
I always think that the transformation challenges can be a bit hit or miss.
Yeah.
I think we've had some fantastic ones this series. This was not my favourite.
No.
And I don't feel like this was the best one they maybe could have done for the final challenge.
Yeah, it seemed quite difficult, considering Esme specifically said she wanted them to play with kind of what they would conceal and what they would reveal.
Yeah, which I think is a nice challenge.
A great challenge. They didn't give them much fabric to use for the concealing parts.
Yeah, I thought that the range of garments that they gave them there was a lot of white, which I think is making things difficult for concealing very much. There wasn't much colour in there.
No.
And I feel like I would have liked to see more colour, more texture, and then they might have had a bit more to play with.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of quite plain sheer garments, so I think that massively impacted what they could do with it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I do think that working with sheer fabrics, you can do some really fun stuff.
Definitely.
we've got some amazing inspiration on site in sheer fabrics. But I do think sometimes it can take quite a long time to really kind of layer up and work with things.
Yeah, you need to do either a lot of layering or kind of a lot of gathering, kind of very narrow gathering, kind of getting as much of that fabric as you can to kind of conceal.
Yeah.
And when you've only got 90 minutes.
Yeah, they set up a difficult challenge there.
Yeah, and I think some of the fabrics they had weren't really good for layering or gathering. Like, I think there was like a rain mat.
There was a couple of rain mats in there,
which I mean, I can't imagine trying to gather a rain mat.
I think you would have had a hard time.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of what the bees were able to come up with?
I mean, they came up with something that was a lot better than what I would have come up with, which is, I think they got creative with what they had. I think they were interesting. I liked how Orla had kind of used some elements to create kind of these flowers that she'd attached to her garment. I liked how I think it was Caz kind of played with these kind of geometric lines, so using the black lines and then you could see those through the sheer fabrics. Yasmin had kind of like the pleats on the bust. I think they were creative.
Yeah, there were definitely some strong ideas in there.
Yeah.
I'd agree with you. The one bit that I really liked was Orla's flowers.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the things that you can do with sheer fabrics, is particularly the way you can layer colours together to create new colours even. I think it was unfortunate that it was a brown fabric in there. I don't think that looked as nice as a different colour would have done, but that's what she had to work with.
Yeah, they didn't have much colourful fabrics.
So I like that element. I think her overall garment was fine. It was, I like the fact that it was drawn in at the waist with like a drawstring. But really, the interest was mostly...
It was mainly those
the flowers.
Really.
And then, like you say, I thought the work that Yasmin did, pleating that bust line on hers, was lovely. I think she just didn't follow that through or didn't have the time or the materials to make the rest of it more interesting.
Yeah, I feel like the rest of it didn't look like that much of a transformation from
because she started with
a
polka dot sheer dress, and it basically just had a kind of black underskirt covering up the important bits. It was wearable though. I will give her that.
Yeah, it was wearable.
And what did you think of Caz's?
Caz, I really liked, like I say, the way she kind of used the sheer fabrics and then had these sort of like black fabrics underneath to create these kind of geometric lines. She had like the zips that I don't know if they actually were pockets or if they were just like faux pockets. She had the little bit of lace at the top. It was interesting, and I think she kind of played with the kind of monochrome black and white, which again, when, like you said, they weren't really given the colourful fabric, she didn't have much of an option there.
I think Cassie's was my favourite finished garment, because like you say, I think the way she used the fact that you could see seams through the fabric gave it a kind of almost architectural feel. I really liked the shapes that it was making. The black lace panel on the front was really nicely done. She'd layered up fabrics on top to give a bit more modesty. I think hers it felt a bit more designer. So I felt it was appropriate for that one to come first.
Definitely. Maybe not something I would personally wear down Tesco or something, but
why not?
But yeah, definitely in terms of design and creativity, I think definitely a worthy winner of the Transformation Challenge.
Yeah. Now, if the Transformation Challenge has inspired you to have a play with sheer fabrics, we do have a super video from Jo on our Minerva TV playlist where she talks you through how to work with sheer fabrics, how to layer them up, how to get creative with them. Sheer fabrics are often very lightweight, so they do need some careful handling, but you can create some amazing things with them. And then additionally, we have quite a few different sheer fabric options in our Minerva exclusive range. So if you like the idea of sheer, but maybe you want a print that gives you a bit more colour and coverage, then we've got some fab options to try out. So we've just got a couple of them here. So this is our sheer chiffon fabric. So it's lightweight, it's semi-transparent, it's got those kind of ethereal qualities. It's just got a lovely softness and drape to it. And this particular print is called Elysian Fields. And this is just a really pretty floral. I think this would be a super option if you wanted a sheer overlay. You wanted to do maybe like a sheer blouse going over the top of maybe a cami top. You could make sheer sleeves in something like this. So many options, and there's some great inspiration on the Minerva website too. And then another option is our single Georgette. Now this is part of the crepe family. So you can kind of feel the difference.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a texture.
Yeah, it's a little bit more textured than you'll get with a chiffon, which is very smooth, which can make it a little bit easier to work with. But also, this has got fabulous sheerness to it, which you can really build into an ethereal, quite romantic garment with it. If you have lots of layers, then it does become more opaque, but you can also play with its translucent qualities. Again, I think this would look lovely, maybe as like a dress over the top of like a slip, or you could line elements of it to make it more opaque. And this particular print is our garden greeting. So, put on the spot for this transformation challenge, what would you be reaching for?
Not a rain back. I'm just running out of the sewing room. Probably some of the lace fabrics, I think, and I would probably focus on kind of pleating and gathering them to make sure that I'm covering everybody's modesty, because I think Esme can be a little bit... She doesn't like things that are too cheeky, does she, sometimes?
She likes a little bit of cheek.
A little bit of cheek.
Not too much
not
cheek.
Too cheeky. So, pleating, gathering, kind of maybe some sort of dress or skirt and top, and just making sure that everywhere that needed to be covered was covered. What about yourself?
I think this would be one of my least favourite transformation challenges to actually tackle. I think I would definitely be looking to do a blouse for this challenge, partly because it gives you fewer important bits that you need to cover.
Yes.
But definitely gathering, ruffles, flounces, anything that kind of creates that additional volume.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking you could use something like a horsehair braid in with the lace to give kind of like a kind of fluffy, swirly hem to it. I think maybe flounces around the bust line to give you extra coverage. Massive puffy sleeves, a big puff sleeve. But I think it would very much depend on what garments you had to work with.
Yes.
And like you, I would be running a mile from the raincoat fabrics, which I think are... Caz did beautifully. I wouldn't want to stray into her territory. So now it came down to the all-important made-to-measure challenge. This is the final one. This is the one that's going to determine who was the winner of the Sewing Bee this year. So no pressure.
Yeah.
No pressure. So this time around, the sewists were tasked with creating a trompe-l'oeil illusion dress. Something that looks like something that it's not.
Yeah.
Maybe a kind of cheeky illusion reveal. I think this was a really broad and scary challenge.
Very scary.
Because this is not something that anyone is likely to be creating in their normal day-to-day sewing.
No, it's definitely sort of catwalk looks or like Met Gala looks. I think Chanel Monet had one for this year's Met Gala, a sort of like garment, and it kind of transformed into this other garment.
The dress that looks like a suit.
Yeah, it was fabulous. It's a fabulous look.
As is everything Chanel Monet wears.
Definitely. But yeah, definitely something that is created for kind of statement looks and not something you're going to be wearing, like you say, day-to-day sewing.
Yeah. So yeah, we're talking runway, statement, editorial, dramatic, and you've got 5.5 hours to create this. That is a tough ask.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of those where I think when it comes down to the final challenge, you have to sew it well, no question. It has to fit really well. It needs to be finished well. But you need that really amazing creative idea to start with.
Yeah.
And I think they all had some very different ideas and different takes on this challenge.
Yeah, which I think, because it was quite a broad sort of challenge, like you say, I think it allowed them the room to have that creativity. They all had a really nice story behind their garments.
They did. They were all very
which was
personal.
Nice. Yeah, they hadn't just kind of gone for, ideas and inspiration from things they'd seen before. They actually sort of put a little bit of a personal touch in all of their garments, which I think was nice for the final. And it's always nice when they get their family members or their loved ones to be their model as well. That's always nice.
It is so sweet. I think it kind of adds to that personal touch when you're creating for someone that you know and love so much.
Yeah.
So let's start off then with Yasmin. What did you think of her idea?
I love the idea. I love that she'd kind of taken inspiration from some Dior looks. But then she also had this kind of tailoring, which she said was like a nod to her dad, who'd got her into sewing in the first place. I thought it was a really great idea. The little kind of like illusion tie, so she kind of like folded the fabric and almost like origami fabric into this tie. And then she had this big like wire frame with the layers of the tulle fabric, which kind of gave it that kind of hazy edge.
It was very much, like you say, it was inspired by Dior runway and the kind of masks that they did. But I thought she executed that tulle frame so nicely. Yeah. It was, again, I think what she did there was played with the opacity of sheer fabrics.
Yes.
By creating that kind of like almost smoky
kind
outline.
Of like hazy, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that part of it looked amazing.
Yeah.
What did you think of the overall ensemble when it was complete?
I think the kind of wireframe thing, I think it looked a little bit wonky compared to what I think she'd originally planned. I'm not sure if it was intended to look kind of off.
I suspect that. I mean, I think she said she lost about an hour of time to her collar, and I think the fact that she managed to get it finished at all was amazing. Yeah,
there was a moment where I was panicking, thinking, "Oh, please don't say she's not going to get it finished," because that would be such a shame in the final. So I'm definitely glad she got it finished. She had a bit of trouble with her fitting, I think, as well, which when you're doing a tailored look, it needs to fit. It needs to. The fit needs to be absolutely spot on. I think she struggled a little bit. She lost a little bit of time. So I think the final result, she pulled it out of the bag. It looked really good, but just some little elements which maybe weren't quite there.
I agree with you that because the frame was a little bit off centre and a bit on the wonk, it lost a bit of that crisp kind of tailored drama to it. The whole shape was quite interesting. It was almost giving me Playboy bunny, or almost like exaggerated woman's silhouette maybe. What I thought was a bit unfortunate was the way it was sat. It kind of covered the tie detail. So that lovely bit of illusion that she did you couldn't really see. I mean, it sounded like it was a little bit wonkily finished, but I would have liked maybe the whole thing to be a bit lower, so you could have really seen that detail too.
Yeah, I think either lower, or if she had got it kind of straight up and down like it should have been, maybe that tie would have been
between
more
the kind of
centred, and it would have kind of drawn your eye to the tie.
But it was dramatic. I think it ticked the trompe l'oeil box. I love the colours.
Yeah, lovely bright orange colour. Gorgeous.
If you wanted to create a dress inspired by Yasmin, I picked out our classic Duchess satin in a burnt orange colour, which I think would give you that kind of look. But yeah, I think this kind of tone, it catches the eye. Orange is not a colour that I ever reach for.
Yeah, it's not one of mine either. But
this kind of tone, I think, is really quite classy.
Yeah, it's lovely, and it's classy, but it's statement as well. Like you're going to get noticed in an orange.
You are going to get noticed, especially with a floating Dior-inspired silhouette on the front of you.
But yeah, it's definitely like that kind of almost burnt orange, bordering on kind of copper rust colour.
Yeah.
I think it looks elegant rather than I think a bright orange would have not had the same kind of effect.
Yeah, so I think she did a super job. She set herself a really tough challenge, but created something that just looked stunning.
Yeah. So Orla created this kind of black illusion dress, which kind of, when you looked at it from the front, it just looked like a black dress. And then when her sibling turned to the side, it had this like explosion of rainbow colours coming out of it. It was a nod to kind of pride and their sort of sibling and queer culture. What did you think of that one?
I thought this was a really interesting concept and absolutely not something that I would have expected anyone to do, or certainly something I would have ever tried myself. I think that it was also quite brave to attempt this, having not really practiced it.
Yeah, it sounded like she hadn't practiced it, and I thought, the final?
for the final, but it's like the kind of structure required for it, because to get something that from the front appears completely black, but then I think the aim really was, when Roe was kind of arching back, that it creates this rainbow from the side, which I think did work fairly well, but that was such a feat of engineering that I think it was very, very ambitious, I think, to attempt that in the time, for the first time, almost working through all your issues right there in the studio.
Yeah, because she was kind of, I think, struggling with how she was going to attach the sort of, I think it was like pool noodles that she'd covered in fabric, how she was going to attach them to the dress. And then she had, like, when she first started to pin them on, they were kind of drooping so you could see the colour. So then it wasn't giving that illusion. So she had to kind of, I think she stuffed them with something to kind of help them
there's some
stay
fabric
up.
stuffed in there. I will say, I want to start with the base dress that she made.
The base dress was lovely.
It was stunning. And I thought, like, choosing a black scuba for a finale, I was like, is that going to give the wow factor? But I think scuba fabric, I love scuba fabric. It's a really kind of substantial knit fabric, but it does have a weight and a drape to it. And you could really see that in that amazing kind of pleated skirt. It was particularly, I think, the way Roe moved in it. It had a Matrix feel to me, like what Carrie-Anne Moss's coat in the Matrix. Just the way it kind of hung. I think it had that non-binary element to it, which I think was really cool as well.
It was. I mean, I watched that coming down the runway, and I thought, I mean, minus the pool noodles, I would wear that dress. It just looked really, really fabulous, and I think Esme commented on the pleats on her skirt and stuff. I think the actual base dress.
The base dress I thought was stunning, and then the rainbow element, I felt like this was maybe just a little bit too crafty.
It was kind of giving, like, when you're in primary school and you get given some, like, toilet rolls and things, and they're like, oh, just go and paint and cover them in glitter and stuff.
Yeah, that, but, design it.
The concept of it, I love the concept. The concept
was fabulous.
It was fabulous. I think it was just watching her cover these pool noodles in fabric was just...
Yeah.
Flashbacks to primary
To be
school.
fair, I don't know what the couture equivalent for that would be. I feel like you could build something, a structure out of boning or whatever, but that would take so long.
I mean,
to
maybe
do.
they're using pool noodles going down the catwalk. Who knows?
Maybe
Dior's
Maybe
just
that's it.
Pool noodles.
Next Versace connection is just going to be gold covered pool noodles. Yeah, I feel like it was a really ambitious idea, and it was executed far better than I thought would be possible for the crafty way that some elements of it were done. And I'm amazed that Orla was able to finish that in the time.
Yeah, again, I think similar to Yasmin, she kind of not wasted time, but she had to spend quite a lot of time in fixing some issues. Yeah. And then the end result was the kind of pool noodle bits weren't neatly sewn on.
No.
Which they're going to pick up on.
They are going to pick up on. But what I loved was the little bit right at the end of the show where they're going through what everybody's doing now. Yes. And they said that after being on the show and the experience Orla had, she's changed her university plans and she's now studying fashion. Yeah. And I'm like, fantastic.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
That's definitely her calling.
Ideas are amazing.
Yeah.
She's got a fearlessness, which I think is amazing. Yeah. She will take unusual materials and do something odd with them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love the idea of this. Elements that I didn't love.
Yeah, it fit the brief, it just maybe wasn't executed quite as well as it could have been.
Yeah.
And then moving on to Caz, who did this fabulous kind of rib cage, kind of like almost like skeleton on the outside type thing, which was just fantastic. The boning that she'd used to create this rib cage, everything was just neatly sewn, and it just, when it came down the catwalk at the end, it was such a statement, such a standout look. It was fantastic. What did you make of Caz's?
I thought that she had a very interesting concept. Obviously, it was very personal to her because she'd been through open heart surgery, and she really wanted to literally wear her heart on her sleeve and kind of embrace that in an outfit. And it was couture, it was architectural, it was beautifully sewn, it had impact on the runway, it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I thought she executed it so well, because you could see her wrestling away with a faux leather fabric is not necessarily the easiest to work with. You've got channels of boning running through it. You're trying to control multiple levels to create this rib cage. She had 10 ribs going on around her. So to harness all that together to create something so striking was amazing. I love the dimensions of it.
Yeah.
The way she had this kind of peak of the red heart at the top, but she'd also kind of balanced that off with the red flash at the bottom. I almost missed it kind of first time round, but the way she designed it was almost like an illusion as well of kind of the shape of the body. It was just inspired.
Yeah, and it was really well fitted as well. I think all of them kind of, you think about how much time they spent doing all their kind of trompe l'oeil elements, but they had to, it's still made to measure, it still had to fit really well, and all of them chose quite a fitted garment, I think. So Caz's dress, it was quite a sort of fitted dress as well. It was just fabulous. And again, faux leather fabric is not super kind of forgiving in terms of fitting it.
Absolutely not.
I think it was just fantastic.
And it was interesting. One of the examples of Trompe l'oeil that they brought out at the start was the kind of Oscar's dress with the floating straps. And that was just like one element. Like Caz had 10 straps floating around her model. She just did an absolutely stellar job on this one. I think we both have a favourite.
Yeah.
Safe to say.
Yeah, I think definitely Caz. I think it was just fantastic. It was clearly Yasmin and Patrick's favourite as well. They couldn't really fault her sewing either. I think the only thing they commented on was she had some loose threads. We've all been out of the house in something that we've made and we've looked down and we've gone, oh, there's a loose thread there. I just need to get some scissors and cut that off. Yeah. So the fact that the only thing they could really pick up on was a couple of little threads that she hadn't snipped.
Yeah, and I mean, how many times have you seen behind the scenes of like a runway catwalk show and they're literally there snipping off threads at the last minute? I think that's entirely forgivable. Yeah. And bravo. What an amazing job. Now, if you were inspired by Caz, maybe you want to make your own gold ribcage. We have got some lovely faux leathers at Minerva, and the beauty of faux leather is no cows died to make it, but also they can be a bit softer, more flexible. There's different weights you can work with. So this particular one is our soft faux leather, and this is in gold. And I think this would be super look at how that catches the light. I think this would be fantastic for even just like small elements on an outfit. Yes. This would be super for if you want to make a bag to match an outfit. This is fantastic for bag making. I've got some of this at home. I really need to use this at some point. Maybe make something for Christmas.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. Want to give that a go. So that's a wrap. We have a winner of the Great British Sewing Bee 2025. Caz, congratulations. Honestly, super well deserved, I think, for your finale. And honestly, thank you to all the Sewing Bees this year, all the contestants, for making it such an enjoyable series. We have absolutely loved watching along with you. Talking through all your makes, and can't wait for our next season.
Yeah, I think this season has been I probably say this every year, but this season I feel like the talent in the sewing room kind of right from the beginning was just absolutely next level. They were so creative. I loved seeing all their ideas, seeing them bring them to life. I think it was just a really fantastic series, a really, really enjoyable watch. Don't know what I'm going to do with my Tuesday nights now.
Might have to watch the Bake Off. If you were with us last week, Annette and I talked through some of our favourites from this series. Do you have any particular favourite makes? Ones that really kind of stand out in your mind that you'll take with you?
I still remember Peter's kind of origami sleeve from like back in, I think it was episode 2 or something.
I feel like that would have probably sat well in the kind of Trompe l'oeil challenge. Yeah,
that was fantastic. I also really loved Kit's kind of Bowie inspired like lightning bolt dress that they did. I love a bit of Bowie, so I was always going to like that one. That one was just fantastic. I think I loved everything really. I loved all the creativity of it. I think it's really nice to see people kind of going off pattern and just kind of going a bit wild and drafting their own really exciting elements and really exciting garments. So it was really got me inspired.
Yeah, me too. I feel like this year's Sewing Bees have been fearless.
Yes.
And they've really inspired me to push my skills a bit, try different things. hack a bit. I'm not sure if I'm quite up for Kit's level of pattern drafting just yet. But I might be like, tinker around with patterns a little bit more. Maybe we all need to get in there and learn, follow along with Izzy's videos and improve our pattern drafting skills. But I'm going to say they've really set the bar this season. So I can't wait to see what next year's sewing bees come up with.
So thank you for watching along with all of our videos over the past 10 weeks. If you've been inspired to sew anything either by the show or just if you've been sewing anything recently, head over to Minerva, create a free account and start sharing your makes. We would love to see them all. Let us know what you thought of the final episode down below in the comments. Do you think the right person won? And just all your thoughts on the episode. What was your favourite looks?
I'd love to hear everybody's favourite looks from the season.
Favourite looks from the series.
What are the ones that you would like to kind of head out there and make for yourself, or get someone else to make for you? But if you've enjoyed these videos, then do please give us a like, give us a subscribe, and make sure that you don't miss any of our latest videos that we've got coming for you. Every day we've got new videos here at Minerva. So we've got sew-alongs, fantastic learn to sew videos, pattern drafting inspiration. There is so much to learn, so much inspiration. And we have really enjoyed being a part of your lives for the past 10 weeks. We, in Minerva in some form, will be back to join you next year. So until then, it's bye from me.
And bye from me.
Ta-ra.